may not look as though I'm very busy, but I'm actually starting to do that early spring tidy up of the garden. There's a few plants that have gone, and there's a bit of rearranging and re-landscaping, so to speak, and there's some new plants to go in. I am busy, honestly. These aren't just for effect, but on pottering around I've made quite an exciting discovery, and it's certainly my first of this species at this time of year. This is not a species that I'm going to feature here that I would normally expect to see much before the end of May, really. I have recorded it in the end of April, but that's usually when the first of them have arrived from the continent. It's early February, and I'm doing a bit of pottering around today. It's got to that time of year when you feel the urge to tidy the garden up a bit and get those preparations done for another growing season. This isn't a gardening channel, honestly. There is the invertebrate which I'm featuring, and that will come very shortly, but doing a bit of re-landscaping. I've took a few things out in the garden, and I'm going to plant a few nectar-bearing plants in. I've opened the garden up a bit more. The large Lonicera palliata, which I had just behind camera, is now gone, and that large amount of space which is free is being landscaped and will be planted up with some new plants for the insects to enjoy. The feature of the garden, of course, is the bee tree which I'm sat underneath. It's a fabulous large ceanothus. It's been here about 15-16 years or so now. I remember Dennis and I planting it when we originally reworked the garden at the time. Ceanothus is one of those plants that I would recommend everybody to have if they want to attract bumblebees and honeybees and a range of other invertebrates into the garden. And there's a ceanothus for every situation, whether you want one just low growing, creeping across the ground, to stand as a specimen tree, or up against a wall. There's a ceanothus for everybody, and a range of blues, purples and whites, I believe now. Quite interesting ceanothus, now I've mentioned it, that in the 1980s, when we had the bad winter, I think it was 80-81, it killed every ceanothus and every hebe that we had on the Arboretum Park in Nottingham. Ceanothus weren't hardy against prolonged hard frosts that we had, but nowadays frost doesn't seem to touch them, and certainly this one's been exposed to the 2 periods of hard frosty weather that we've had recently, and it's not touched it at all. What it also has a tendency to do is chuck some more flowers out in the autumn months. So it's a win-win situation for the invertebrates in both spring and in the autumn. Now, while I've been pottering around, I've found quite a surprising record. It's quite stunning, and I'll show it you now, and it's this. Now, this is something that I never expected to see. As you've just seen, I was pottering around the garden. There's some major structural developments taking place, and hopefully those developments will enhance the availability of nectar for invertebrates during the coming summer. And as I was walking past the shed, I thought, what's that on this little bit of trellis? I thought it was just a bit of an old leaf. No, it's not. This is a silver Y. It appears freshly emerged, but I don't think it's freshly emerged today. I think this has hatched yesterday on what was a very mild day, but for some reason has been unable to expand its wings. I'll keep an eye on it and we'll see what it does, but I don't think we're going to see much change here. Now, you might think, oh, what's so exciting about a silver Y? It's a very common migrant, and yes, indeed it is. However, today's February the 4th, and even if this one doesn't expand its wings successfully and manage to take flight this evening, it proves that this species has overwintered here in Nottinghamshire. And I think that might be the first recorded case. It's certainly the first I've ever seen, the only February record I've ever seen, and the first before late April, if I remember right. And any that arrive in late April are usually fresh in from the continent. So this is quite a remarkable record, and I'll keep an eye on its progress, if there is any progress, and we'll see what happens. Well, I've given it another hour while I've been pottering around in the garden, and there's been no development. This moth is not going to expand its wings now. I may well just bring it inside, see whether a higher temperature will initiate that, but usually once they've been out for a length of time, then the unfolding of the wings never happens. The wings harden in the position that they are when the moth hatches out. The important thing is, as far as I'm concerned, is that this is a cracking winter record. The 4th of February, and a silver Y that has overwintered, and the pupa, which no doubt was somewhere below where this one is now, in one of the plant pots probably, has survived 2 prolonged periods of hard frost. What an unusual and incredible record. Unfortunately, this is one moth which will never fly, and that is sad, but at least it hasn't passed by unnoticed.